All right, sorry for getting started a little late tonight, but I had a little audio trouble right at the last minute. My microphone stopped working, so I had that panic. That's always nice. So welcome back to the weekly live stream for Mythruna development. Tonight, see, already we're starting to lose the microphone again. Okay, so let's make sure we keep that rolling. All right, so back to the weekly live stream. We're going to continue world generation because that seems to be the endless thing that I'm working on these days. I'll go ahead and thank the patrons while we're here. You know, if you feel like asking questions, feel free to. Thanks to my patrons for all they do to help me keep motivated and so on and so forth. And so without further ado, we'll join the scene. If you should recognize this view from last time, it's kind of where we left off. I changed a little bit. And remember that up in the corner here is the secret link and the secret password if you want to download Mythruna and give it a try. And also on that page is the link to join the Discord if you want to join the Discord. So let me just double check that we're streaming. Uh-oh. Yep, looks like we're streaming. Has it been streaming this whole time? I hope so. Yep, looks like it. Alrighty. So, as usual, YouTube is being weird. Concurrent viewers 0, concurrent viewers 2. Wish it could make up its mind. Anyway. So, this is the map as we left it kind of before. I did color code the towns because it was confusing to me. So, the yellow towns are the first pass towns and the blue towns are the second pass towns. And where we left off last time was I was using the roads to kind of adjust probabilities. And I went back and I made that a little smarter. So if we draw the probabilities, let's see. So when it redraws, it should draw all the probabilities. The idea being that, if things are near the road, they're more probable. So if we back out, you can kind of see how as things get farther away from the road, they become less likely to form. This is for all the little infill towns and stuff of that variety. What I hit, this turned out really nice. I redid what we did last week, so to make sure that I wasn't double dipping, and otherwise we get like massive high probabilities anytime the paths overlapped or crisscrossed and things, because points were being influenced by multiple routes and things and stuff. I also got I also had these little flags to the top which show their attributes. Thanks for confirming, guys. This is useful for like looking at the scores of these. I wish I hadn't done that. So like the different colors mean different things as far as food and forest, and the green is like the forest bar. There's two right here, so it's a little confusing. Let me move over to one of these that only has the one. Yeah, so like the green is how much forest that there is around there. This brown color and the yellow are both, or it's gray and yellow, because minerals and stone are considered to be the same thing right now. But that's basically all this thing has going for it. It doesn't even have any ports or anything. Like you get like a yellow bar for how many ports. There'll be food bars. So this place, the only thing it's got going for it is it's got some mining and some wood, but doesn't really even have maybe enough to even sustain a population. But that's sort of getting ahead of where I wanted to go tonight. So what I did next was, based on these probabilities, I'm like, okay, well, let's just continue the algorithm and we will sort of calculate some towns in the middle. And what I did was basically anything within a quarter of a day of the town would get suppressed. And I think we would suppress anything. So basically it lowers the probabilities very little, only like immediately around. So we're going to get like a ton of infill towns, because I just wanted to see what that looked like. And this led to sort of some other realizations that I needed to think about. And I'll show you when this finished rendering. Right, there we go. So all these brown towns are the ones that just generated. And what I started thinking about was, I kind of give you a hint with that other mine site over there. We've got a lot of these sites that, like this site here, the only thing it's got going for it is that it's near trees, and it has a teeny little bit of food and a teeny little bit of water. When you've meanwhile got like way better sites, if you just were like setting up a woodcutter camp or something like that, something that needed a forest, there's really no reason you'd ever create a population would ever grow here versus any of these other sites that have way more, like this one right here, way more going for it. It's close to the road, it's close to a river, so it's got fresh water, it's got sort of groundwater, food. It's even got some mining capability, so they could build stone houses and things. So a couple things occurred to me. One is whether a place can support population, minimal amount of water, minimal amount of food. How many people could a site support just on its own? Browntown, yeah. How many people could a site support just on its own? Like this one would support very few, more than maybe a minimum. So if you have a wooded area that gets rain, it's going to be able to support some amount of people. Maybe 5 or 10 people. I don't know. These are again 128 meter square sections. So, but beyond that, it's like less likely for a big town to grow here than say here, right? Or even here. And the other thing is once you've decided, oh yeah, that's going to be a woodcutter because that's basically all it could be, and that's going to be a woodcutter, and that's going to be a woodcutter. It's like once you've decided this guy is going to be your local area for wood, how much more wood do you need? You'd probably suppress. There's not going to be any village dedicated to wood cutting within a certain radius of this one, because why would they bothered? I'm just looking for ways to reduce this amount of infill to something logical, and but that sort of bottom up thinking, I don't know what this site or this site's going to be at this point. They're just random points that I've decided, hey, they have enough attributes, let's plop a town here because it met some dice roll. But now I need to start thinking about, if I'm going to create a village that's going to have a lot of forestry there, then I can suppress all the forestry around it, basically get rid of those green bars around it and see if those still would grow, make a city there. This guy on its own. So I started thinking bottom up. Maybe I'm doing something backwards, and I should be looking at all of the sites and sort of, can I pick a site and just randomly decide what it's going to be based on its characteristics? And sort of the minimum thing I started thinking about was that whole, how many people could a site support? And so I went back to the drawing board a little bit, and let me clear out all of these guys. Say we don't want to draw probabilities, and we don't want to calculate infill towns. Oh, because that was the other thing. So I started thinking population, and so then I'm like, well, what kind of food do we have in these areas? Can I limit? Maybe just don't even bother to grow sites that don't have enough food. So I created this thing to sort of, why did that return so quick? Check food. Oh, draw farm stats. That's what it is. So let's put these in order. So let's do this, draw farm stats. Yeah, so here was sites that it considered there could be a farm there. So I pulled back as far as the earlier algorithms have decided all these spots could have a farm because it's flat enough, there's enough water, and plants can grow there. Those are the criteria. And like, that's too many, so I started color coding them based on, sort of how much they could produce let me see what the color coding is. So red is these stats are based on not only the site but how many sites around it. So red means there's like very minimal farm land around there. Orange means there's a lot of farmland. Yellow means there's a super lot of farmland. I think that magenta is like the default color, so if it was greater than 9, you get magenta. So magenta is like the super farmland, right? Everything around it was also farmland. I'm like, well, that's not really good enough because so this was the idea behind that was not to create farms, but to decide that a town of some kind could be really probable here because, you know, it has all of this capability of growing farmland. And if I had decided that some of these were already going to be farms, you know, that would help with that. But I started thinking about this, and I was looking around at places that, like up here, we've got a lot of dry land, and I was looking specifically here, trying to decide why is all this farmland here. It looks really dry. And so then I loaded it up in game, and you can see some of the maybe I can bring up rather than load the game real quick. Let's see, where was it? Yeah, lots of screenshots I took of other random crap. Okay, so I took a view of this area right around here, in fact. And I was like, okay, it is green, it's flat, and there aren't many trees. So indeed, probably farmland would grow there. And in fact, I did a stats here, and I'm like, okay, well, the only thing it's got going is that foliage levels 1 out of 3 and wetness levels 1 out of 3. And actually, that's probably okay for farming, especially dry crops like corn that don't need much water. And so it's reasonable. And I was like, well, what would all of these farms look like if I just, for the whole 128 meter squared section, just plopped down farmland? What would that look like? Is this going to be crazy? And so that's when I did these views that you can see here, where I just started messing with it. And of course, once I started messing with it, I had to make it look interesting and fix some bugs. And so we ended up with this, right? So, you know, and the really hilly area is nothing. But again, I'm plotting them whether farm would really grow there or not. It's just this whole 128 meter by 128 meter square. Thought it was flat enough to be farmland. Actually, it's this around the farm isn't, that little farmhouse is in the center, so it's this guy. And he decided he was flat enough because over here was flat, and over here was flat, and over here was flat, and, you know, around here was flat. But in reality, when I'm placing crops, you know, they wouldn't grow exactly up the hill like this for steep hills. And although it turned out going up small hills was a lot cooler than I thought it would look. At any rate, so I turned it upside down and started looking at it from the bottom up, saying, well, if I start back from the beginning, can I basically for each site decide what it's probably going to be? Can I do that really quickly? Because there's a lot of sites, right? Not just all these, but everything that's got a probability. Can I start from the bottom up, figure out, well, what population could it support? What attributes does it have? And then randomly select for every one of them what it might be. And then when I'm building the towns, I already know what would be a port, what would be a farm, and I can decide randomly to include them or not based on different probabilities. I'm not sure that's the way I want to go, but I was looking into it. So I created this settlement data 2, and where I was dealing with population and population influence. Let's start with population influence. And this actually takes a little bit to generate. And it was actually doing this that partly sent me down the farmland thing as well, because I started looking at I was getting weird, what I thought were weird results based on the coloring in this particular map app. And so I loaded it into Mythruna and did that. I think that's where we're going to end up, was I'm going to try to shorten the loop it takes me to prototype stuff like that. Come on. Come on. So hopefully I picked the more interesting stat first. But I did a bunch of research on, how much water does a river provide, that kind of thing. How much water does it take for a human to live? And so I have some stats on, what the United Nations considers the minimum amount of water to support a single human, for bathing and drinking and cooking and stuff like that. So we've got sort of each of these little sites has the stats for what can be there. I'll pull up what these mean. Let's see. Go to each of these then would influence the population in some way. So we've got the black is sort of the scale, that would be 100%. And then so you can't see what the color is. Yellow is precipitation. Green is sort of how wooded the area is. Blue is right. Blue is sort of the rain factor, which is sort of it's a combination of things. What is rain factor? It should be directly correlated with precipitation, I think. But again, I just prototype. I'm playing with numbers, so it is precipitation. Oh, but if we're that's what it is. So the rain is supposed to be like usable groundwater. And so the closer we are to the ocean, I thought, well, we'll lower that down a little bit because we'd have like potentially salt water contaminating our drinking water or something. I don't know. It's just an arbitrary thing to consider. Again, I'm just prototyping, so I have a lot of stuff that might not make it into the final thing. Magenta was just how much water was in the cell to begin with, which is based on earlier calculations of propagation and so on. And then you got food, fresh water, and the farm factor. So red is how much food is there, and that's based on foraging, which is based on wilderness and temperature, blah 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 blah, and farmland. If we're farming here, we can expect a certain amount of crops to feed us and potentially some extra people, but the food is for feeding locally. And then the cyan here would be how much fresh water you have based on, so these other factors contribute to how much fresh water we think is not very much here. And so probably the population here is not high because sort of it's the minimum of those two. And then this pink is sort of the farm factor, that we can make a farm here, and that's why this red is so high. The red could be high if we're in the middle of the woods and we expect a lot of forage capability there, whereas the farmland would be low if it's bumpy and stuff like that. So these could be different values. Anyway, I was casting about for inspiration to see if I could calculate from the bottom up, based on these characteristics. Let me roll the dice and figure out if there is something here, what would it be? If there is something here, what would it be? If there is something here, what it would be? And can I do that fast enough to pre-calculate all of that for every one of these sites? Yeah, so you get some of these with huge amounts of fresh water because that scale is not limited, so they're really close to rivers and things. And so they go off the chart. So here we're within the lake and rivers, and so the fresh water that they have available for drinking and so on is super high. It's off the charts. But I don't know that I could go through every one of these sites and calculate it, but at least if I can characterize them, then I can do what I was talking about before. Like if we're growing farms here and that's enough to support all of the surrounding things and have 9 times the crops, there probably wouldn't be a lot of other farms. Maybe there would be because they support a lot of trade. And so so that's the sort of the conflict in my brain right now. Do you start from the bottom up and do things to make it make sense, or do you start from the top down, which is what I was doing, and use that to adjust the probabilities? I kind of think I still need to do from the top. So the bottom up has another sort of appeal to it, in that calculating these roads between sites is a little bit expensive. It takes, we took, like last time, it took 30 seconds for this because I'm doing a lot of tiles. But, it has to work its way out from this and work its way out from this. And when they meet in the middle, we connected. Whereas if there were a lot of little sites in between and I did the roads after that, they would connect a lot faster. I would be doing a lot more iterations on individual towns, but each of them would connect a lot faster and immediately eliminate those two towns. I think overall road calculation would be faster to do it in one pass, but I think we would lose some of the cool long straight roads that we get, and that's kind of appealing too. So I'm playing both sides, and one of the aspects that I came down to was, and it needs to be done regardless, is once I've decided what a site is, how do I generate the geometry and buildings and stuff that will go there? What would that look like? Because it's hard to tell scale from here, even with all these little buildings. This 128 by 128 meter area, what can actually fit there? What, like with the farmland, how much farmland is that? Is that a lot of farmland? Is it a little farmland? If I say, there's a lot of woods here, so, we can have a woodcutter here. Well, what makes sense? It's like 5 woodcutter huts, 1 woodcutter hut. This doesn't really make for good scale. Excuse me, I'm burpy tonight. And so I started, so that's when I was prototyping the farmland, and I think I'm done talking about this. If there are no questions, I'll give it a beat. I think I'm going to go into the game and show you sort of what the farmland looks like, the crude farmland I plotted down. All right. So we'll exit out of here. I try to avoid that because it takes a long time to load back up. So let's run in the game. Everybody wants to see the game anyway, right? But you see, so from starting this, I got to continue. This is how long it takes for me to test something. And actually, if I was changing the, if I was changing how the farms lay out, I've got to delete the, world data. I can still continue into the last world, but then it's got to regenerate all the far terrain, blah, blah, blah. And this all takes time. And this is pretty quick, right? So we come in here, and we want to make sure it's daytime. Yeah, so we've got crazy farms generating straight up the side of the hill, which doesn't make any sense. I've tried to create, I think I'm going to have probably some geometry to represent plowed fields at some point, but right now I've just kind of done these ramps. So you can go running through the cornfield, or you can fly over here to the little generated house, which I think has like, yeah, so the cornfield's cut right through it. It's not very smart. I'm a little happy with this roof. I think it's kind of cool. I looked up like medieval farmhouses and saw some of them had, or at least one of them had a roof like this. I'm like, this looks kind of neat. So I'm going to steal that. So anyway, we've got a little farmhouse here. Yeah, there's something would have to be done about this. So probably there wouldn't be farms generating just one block up, because that's kind of ugly. But I was looking at, and early bugs let me see this a little clearer, because like here is a, so let's see, from this corner over to here, over to here, over to that farmhouse, over to here, to that farmhouse, and back up. That is a 120, that's a 256 by 256 meters squared with a farm in the center. Because when it samples to decide if that can be a farm, it checks, all the nine samples, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And so when we get, a farm should pop here, we're really talking about this area that a farm can appear. And so they overlap. And again, I'm just plotting the farmhouses to, hey, Jeremy. I'm just plotting the farmhouses so that I know where the centers of these tiles are. And this is not the way farms would generate at all. But anyway, and every time I changed something or debugged it, I had to clear my data and start it over again, wait for all the FAR terrain to produce so that I could see the FAR stuff. It got it really annoying. What I wished was that I had some kind of scripting capability like the mapper tool where I could test out, like given a large amount of terrain, those 256 by 256 area, maybe I can just test some world generation there to see how one of these sites would lay out automatically based on the current algorithms and things. Because obviously right now what I would like to do is go through and at least make sure these 8x8 little farm plots didn't generate up the side of the hill. And that's, I mean, I could show you sort of what's involved in that, but it would take 10 minutes for me to show you just because of regenerating the data. So what I thought was, what if we could take, that'll be interesting when I come back in, I'm in a physics weird place. What if we could go to, whoops, blocked, which already allows me, because of recent changes, to expand the field of, editing. So actually I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I set this back to normal to work on some geometry. But you see how fast that loaded. I can come in here and I can mess with, where is it? There it is. So I can put back the larger grid size. I can make even bigger grid sizes if I wanted to. But let's just do that. That's going to be 80 by 80. Each of these is like the big grid, and there's 4 blocks per grid cell. So I'm thinking, this loads pretty quick. I can add scripts, that do specific things, which I've played with before. So can I, hold on, I have to sneeze. Of course, as soon as I said that, I didn't. So can I, in a script, maybe hook up a Mythruna world in here and generate the terrain over this area so that it's easier to prototype, farm generation, port generation, all of these things just are tremendously difficult to test in the game because they require me to clear out the world, wait for the world to generate, and so on. And here I have scripts that I can run. So I thought, well, maybe we'll just plop a world in here, create a script in this to initialize the world, and then I can test directly. So I think that's what we're going to work on tonight, because anyone who is a developer and who wants to use the MOS libraries, there's some educational capabilities here because those are open source parts. And at least not in the first pass, but in the second pass, I'll be dealing directly with the open source APIs. So let me kill this for a second because I want to go into the scripts. And let's say world gen.groovy. Okay. Let me make sure we depend on, one sec. Okay, sorry, I had a text from my youngest child. Okay. So we gotta go, not here. Gotta find, I wanna make sure we've got the right. So if you become a MOS user, again, available early access to patrons. If you're already a patron and a developer, you have to shoot me an email and I'll get you access to the repository. If you're already a MOS developer, you can embed these kind of things into your own projects as well. Then they can use your own code. In here, yeah, so we already depend on core. So the shaper Yeah, so all of these things already depend on core, and there's no special tool runtime. We're good to go. So I should be able to use world classes right in Blockhead, which would be cool. But let's just see. Import com.subsilica.mworld.star and world grids. Yeah, just I want to see if we got if the class is there. And of course, once the script is there, we can just keep rerunning it. In Blockhead, it doesn't automatically rerun. These are sort of, not init scripts. They're just scripts you can run to modify what's in the. Yep. Okay, so we've got access to the world. If we want, we can. Oops, I don't need that. Import Mythruna dot. So what's the world manager in? Core Mythruna world. Duh. So we'll do the dumb way first, which is to world manager sets up everything for us, far terrain, near terrain, blah 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 blah, and eventually we won't want to do that, but there's two aspects. What we want to do is we want to set up, I'll put some comments in, right? Set up the world, find the location, or set the location where we want to pull from the world, load the world data, copy it into Blockhead's workspace. So that's the steps we're going to do. First, we have to set up a world. Setting location is easy. We can pull that from any of the maps. Load the world data is relatively straightforward because once we set up the world, we just ask the world for the world data, and then copying it into Blockhead's workspace. That's actually the only tricky part here. But for setting up the world, I do want to do it the Moss way of setting up all the different parts of what we minimally need. But because I've also got to do all this other stuff, initially I'm just going to let Mythruna's built-in code, the world manager, set the whole world up for me, which means it's going to set up a whole lot of stuff I don't need. And it's not going to be a good example of using the Moss libraries at first. But it'll let us work on this other stuff and see some stuff right away. So what I'm going to do is look at the server, the game server, and see how it sets up its world. Oh, you guys seeing my proprietary code, blah blah blah. All right, source, blah 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 blah, game server, world manager. Okay, so we created a world. World manager was supplied to us. Okay, so then we're just going to the world library. There's nothing special here. So world library, load world info, create world info. That's what we'll do. And well, okay, so we'll make our own world library that has our own custom directory. And so, oops. So worlds equals new world library, new file, script worlds. And if we run that again, so it did it. I mean, we can't really see that. And so the next thing is to load the world from the world library. You see why it would get tedious beyond this if I wanted to do more. So we want to probably every time is it going to complain? No. But this does mean so info, world create world. Quick test. Fractal name. That is a good question. I think I used that as a... Huh. So you guys get to deal with the fact that I don't do a lot of prep for these things usually. And so I end up having to explore around a bit. But fortunately, we can go see how the UI creates its, which I think it'd be world library state, world list state. Create new world info. Fractal type. Where do I get the fractal types? I set them up from... Okay, so create new world's going to go to the create world state. So that's what we have to look at. And this is going to get its types. That's something I added recently to allow us to check different fractals. So we can play with the original world fractal factory, you get fractal types. All over the place. World fractal factory. Default, simple, sign, flat, sample, default. This default is what we want. Okay. I probably could have guessed that, but so default and 1, 2, 3 is my seed that I'm using in my current world. So, and then the other thing is world equals world manager. So let's go back and look at. So we create the world. Create preview. Start world. Create world with just info. Okay. We will try that. Wait, what were we calling? World manager. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this, if I run this, it should do some stuff. Alright, we got errors. No such property info, world info. Class not found. Okay, so we need more. The server has... Where'd my server go? Too many files. Okay. We need, yeah, only need it at runtime. So, oops. You know when people are watching you and sometimes you forget what you're doing? Alright. Let's go to the build.gradle. And we want tool runtime. Oh, okay, we do have a tool runtime. Okay. And it really, in point of fact, probably by the time I've eliminated world manager and created things by manually, probably we won't need the entity data, and then we wouldn't need that. So this is a kind of temporary thing. But And I'm trying to save time. Of course, it's taking extra time, but got like a lot of steps to do before I can see something, and so I want to let the things do the work for me. Okay, so it just created a world, and probably if I execute it again, it's going to, yeah, it's going to complain. So that's unfortunate. You know, it's not a showstopper for me. Tree type index. There's a bunch of closeout stuff that has to happen. If we've run already, I think the server does some closeout stuff. Or it's the world itself. Or world manager. Yeah, I think we need to see. Where's load world? Let's see, what did the script call? Oh, it's not showing us. So again, I mentioned you guys get to watch me flail about. Oh, we're loading a world manager. Oh, okay. So then probably if there's already a world manager, we want to close it. And that should clean up the stuff. Let's see if we can do that without restarting. So, I think it's going to complain. If world not equal to null, world terminate or close? Probably close. Execute script. What's it complaining about? No such property world for yeah. So we need to set. I don't know if I have a set binding. So there must be. I split things into multiple. Split things into multiple things before, I thought. Maybe not. So it's like in my, I use the mapper scripts all the time, and I have ways to set the bindings, and I just don't know that I did that in this particular case, so I'm going to have to look in the code for blockhead, which is nearby here, wherever here is. Blockhead 2. Again, blockhead itself is part of the open source code. And then source main Java, Java com SimSilica blockhead. Set the script state. Okay, so did I set up a bindings? So we set scripts. We don't have a way to set a binding, but the bindings may already be there. Let's just check. Where was I here? So headline bindings. Let's see if it's there. Possible solution binding. Aha. Okay. And that's a Java class, so we ought to be able to look. There we go. This one? No. This one? This one? You see it's called bindings there. So it extends map. Alright, so we don't have any kind of weird. Nothing weird there. So we ought to be able to say if binding get world not equal to null. And actually we want world manager. Then world. And again, this is not something we would have to do if we weren't using the world manager. Well, we would have to do some other termination though. Okay, so see if we can execute that. No. All right. Simple bindings. So just because the default anyway, whatever. We ought to be able to say contains key. It could be that this is a groovy binding and not yeah. So this is am I still printing the yeah, I am. So let's just I get so wrapped up around the things that the little things, right? Make wide sweeping progress on the hard things, and it's the little things, the wiring, that gets us messed up. I think I'm still in 2.3. So oh, I don't need the binding, I need bindings. Hey, how's it going, Lando? Lando Calrissian. Hen. Binding. So get property has variable. All right. We're getting somewhere. Has variable. Whoops. Suppose I could have prepared at least a little. Okay, so that worked. It won't help us for the things we already set up. So I'm going to have to exit out of this and restart it. I probably could have found that binding and done it. Oh, so yeah, so we started threads and we didn't shut them down, so that's the other thing. In general, when you have scripts like this, there should be a life cycle. In fact, we could make one. Actually, we could be smarter than that. So if there already is one, we'll set one. But the other thing we could do is just be smart and clean up our mess when we're done. World manager equals null. And then at the end, all right, see what happens. Because after we grab the code, after we grab the world data, we don't need the world around anymore. So we terminated it. So we should be able to run again without issue. If everybody's cleaning themselves up correctly. So far so good. All right. So it's not going to be speedy, but it's going to be a lot faster than restarting the game every time I want to test something. All right, so we've got a world loaded. Now we need to do the next part, set a location. What do we want to set our location to? Well, first we want to have some math classes. And, well, I don't, yeah. Vec3i home equals new vec3i. And let's pick one of our, that's what I'm looking at up here. This, yeah, there we go. 44015 0 minus 32358. Actually, we can take the, yeah, let's do that. 32358. And really we want to turn that into a, well, we'll worry about that in a second. Okay, so then we want to load the world data, and let's first figure out what our map size is. So that's something we can grab up here. Oops. So I've already done some other generation, so make size by size. What would be the fastest way? Okay, so we know the size. I mean, there's a way, I think, to grab the cells directly from the world, which would be slow, but simple. We like simple, because it gets us to something that works, right? So let's try this. What's the world interface look like? So this is the open source stuff here. Yep, get world cell, and it's a vec3d. So, okay. So we'll do this. We'll be dumb. We'll load and copy it at the same time for the moment. So we'll say int x equals home dot x equals 0. X cannot type tonight. X is less than x plus plus. Whoops. Okay, because I can't type tonight, I'm going to cut and paste code. X, Y, Z. Missed one. There we go. So, oops, Y. Y, 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 Z, 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 Z. Okay. And so what we want to do here is, well, first of all, we don't want to get anything above sea level. In fact, let's start at 140. Okay. And I think we should be using the same block database. So literally, we should be able to say world, oh, what's world manager gonna do? It's gonna be able to get the world somewhere. Yep, get world, so world. In Groovy you can just say world equals world manager dot world. And so world, get world cell, new vec3d, because we'll be, make sure we can say home to, we'll just be smart. Home add xyz. Right, so we'll get the world cell at wherever our starting position is plus, so that'll be like the corner of the world that we were grabbing. And then we will set that, which the fastest way turned out to be this. Block set cell XYZ value. And then somewhere at the bottom, Oh, we want to clear all first. And somewhere at the bottom I do this trick to force an update. Yeah, I don't know if it's safe, but... Alright. So, let's... Moment of truth. Are we going to get a section of the world here or not? Let's see. Everybody cross their fingers. Nope. Okay, problems. No such property, block state. Oh. Where? The block state. Oh, I need to import it. These are the easy problems that are quick to resolve. Okay, execute script. Ooh, it's working. It's contemplating. It's doing stuff. Oh yeah, we're getting terrain written. It's working. Here it comes. Uh-oh. Set cell on line 39. After all that work. Oh, why you gotta be like that? Oh, greater than... Alright, gotta do it again. Oh, but look, it started to do it. Check it out. Started to pull in some world. Turns out, yeah, partially working. Turns out we are pulling from too high. So this maybe needs to be 120. Let's try. Let's try again. See if it works. And of course, I got to speed this up because it's building a lot of things it doesn't need to build just to pull this one little section in. But so this again. Oh, see, already that's faster than loading Mythruna every time I want to test something. But check it out. Haha. All right. It's not bad. Oh, and it's 10 o'clock. Crap. But the other thing is, so what I could do, this is not a very big area because that's 80 by 80, I think. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, yeah, so about 80. I found that Blockhead doesn't really like to go too big, but let's say if I wanted to pull in an actual 128 area, 128 divided by 4 is 32. So it's not too much bigger, if I mathed correctly. Okay, so let's see if this works. And of course, it actually generated a world directory that if I actually change things, I'd have to delete every time. But that's something I can put in the script as well. But I'm hoping that if I set up my own world, I can just not use the database and it'll generate it every time. Yeah, here we go. We're plopping all the stuff down. Woo! Check it out. Generated terrain over a large area. Now it did not put farms here. Why didn't it put a farm? Well, we're making the assumption that I'm even in the right place. Like that the world is even the right world. Huh. I need to go find a location that would be super clear that we're in the right place. So let's go back into the game real quick. I'm gonna keep the live stream running just a little bit. Yeah, that's what I'm just making sure that we're really viewing the same world we think we are. any number of things could go wrong. For example, when you set up a world, like, I don't... Okay, so all that stuff should have matched my real world, which is this A123. But anyway, let's find a better location that would be really distinct terrain-wise. You know, guys, I almost did a music live stream tonight instead, where I created some ambient music for Mythruna, because the Music Weekly's challenge theme is open-ended this time. You can basically pick any of the previous challenges. But for one thing, I've not set that computer up to live stream, the one I do my music development on. And the other thing is, I felt like I was running away from the problem because it was just, I just did not want to work on this tonight. But I need to push through this and get past this part, because I think the rest will be kind of downhill once I figure out this next phase. Okay, so let's pick a location up here on top of like a little cliffy thing. Oh yeah, we're like, okay, all kinds of, yeah, see, look, the farm on a cliff. Okay. All right, so let's take a screenshot. And so then we can capture that location in our script. Keep the old one for now, just in case. 37074 3707, and we're way up at 199. So let's try 170 maybe. 32275. 32275. Let's double check our numbers. 43707, 170, which would be 29 below where I was standing, minus 32275. Okay. Now again, this will be the corner of where we're standing, because we're not centering, which I could do. Oops. Which might make more sense. What makes the most sense is to center on the 120. There's any way, number of ways to calculate that center, or the corner that we're using. Alright. WorldGen, execute. You can see it ticking away down there. It's got to generate a whole bunch of new column data. And come on, you can do it. You can do it. I know you can. Okay, so yeah, we have a problem because we were standing on farmland. That's where we were standing, that corner right there. And it's not generating the farms. And I don't know. Oh, I do know why. I do know why. So, Mythruna right now does not have this support. This does not exist. The farms and stuff, that's based on when you run the map. Well, when I run the mapper tool, it dumps some. Let's fix this to be a lower value, though, eh? It dumps a file to the disk. Yeah, offset the origin. That's fine, but there's just no farmland. See, we're standing on farms, but the thing is that it's hacked in. Yeah, let's do it a little bit more. It's hacked in. It's not real, so I have to put a special file in the current directory in order to make that work for the rivers and the towns and stuff. Because what happens when we run the mapper tool, it dumps these roads and markers files and a rivers to water 1, 2, 3 rivers and ponds as well. And during the world setup, Yeah, check this out. I mean, it looks really cool. Yeah, this is going to be a tremendous help for scripting, or for writing the generation. So what we have to do is copy these 123 files, dash star dot JSON, over to the block set directory. So those will have our markers, ponds, rivers, roads, and then when we initialize the world in our script, I guess I could have left it running; it still would have worked. It will suck those in, and that's my hack to basically bridge the gap between the mapper tool and the fact that Mythruna can't actually generate towns yet. I wanted to see them in the game, and so I dumped these files that are just JSON files. So we got these marker files that have, this is a town, this is a location, that's its type, and same for the routes, ponds, rivers, roads. So these are the little road sections, things like that. Okay, so let's it's just kind of a way for me to test those in the game without actually having to implement it in the game. So this should work. Confidence. And only 7 minutes over time. Except it did not. But it's something related to that, right? It's not finding the file. Oh, no, I know it's wrong. So we made a script worlds. So this has world data in it that's already generated, so we're not going to regenerate it every time we run. So I need to make sure to clear out the tile DB and the world DB. And then if I run the script again, it should initialize all the stuff. So it loaded the things, but we had already generated this section of the world, and it doesn't regenerate it unless you clear those data files out. Ooh, yeah, it's working a little harder this time. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh no! Where's my farmland? Things that make you go, Gosh, I gotta get this working. Yeah, drum roll, you guys. You're a few seconds behind, unfortunately. Script world, script test world. Let's just remove the whole world and try again. Oh, the entity DB, but we've removed everything else, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's try again. Ooh, no. Cannot invoke close on null object. Oh. Alright, so let's yeah, I am in the correct world. The terrain was right. I'm definitely in the correct fractal, put it that way. What I'm going to do is to the world manager, up here somewhere, what is it, marker town 55. Okay, so we'll put a big old log message using test town markers test file for. Actually, we'll just put this right here. Checking for test town markers test file for. So we can see if it's even finding the file, because maybe it's not finding the right file. Yeah, that's it. Always check your assumptions, right? Something's not working. Go back to the first principles. Work forward from there. So, looks like we got 8 concurrent viewers according to these. YouTube added this new little pop-out stats thing, which is kind of cool. So I've been trying to use that. Okay, so let's try it again. World gen, execute the script. Row. Cannot invoke close on a null object. Script 6, line 52. Was not complaining about this before? Oh, down here. Oh. Did we not even make it? So we failed earlier is what's happening. No? If world manager. Okay, so something's going on here. Yeah. System cannot find the specifier. Okay. So we think we have the. That's what it is. So I have to, because I cleared out that directory completely, but not completely. That's why that error was happening. But you know, always one error in the way to get to the real error we're trying to check for. Okay, come on. We're already over. Okay, here we go. Let's try it again. Somewhere in here we should see. Let's go check back up here. Yeah, checking for. Oops. You can see it right here. Checking for test town markers 1, 2, 3. I didn't put whether I'm actually using it or not. But apparently not. But why? But why, I say? I mean, everything else is working. Okay, well let's for a second, let's go back and make sure it's looking for the file we think. Where is it? Checking for 123 markers.json. dir 123 markers.json. Yeah, so why are you not doing it? Adding support. And all that should be good. And just to double check, we'll put some of our logging back in here so we can see if it's even running. Appreciate you guys sticking with me, try to get this working. Alright, scripts. Belgian execute script. Oh, you know, I didn't clear the data this time. Can we see if it used adding support? Oh, that's, I didn't clear the data last time. Oh, I did. I don't know. Dir script worlds. Whoops. Alright. Okay. Everything's clear. We're doing a full test. Yeah, we should have the towns. Clear data this time, so we'll see all of our logs. Actually, see a bunch of those except. Wrote. I wonder It is possible we've found a bug in the engine because one of the things that oh no, it's accepting it right there. Okay, well we know that this is a relatively small area, so it's not going to be a big deal if we add a bunch of debug stuff. So let's do that. But I started thinking, Mythruna, before it ever pulls the individual tile or the individual blocks, it pulls the whole 1024 by 1024 tile to build, the far terrain. I'm just wondering if maybe we found a bug, or if you tried to pull the local blocks first. Maybe we should see a ton of debugging output if we have. We did not. Oh, I didn't clear the. Alright, well I can do that from here. TileDB, WorldDB. Let's try it again. So you see a bunch of more logging this time. These little things, they're always something dumb, and actually we already know that things are not working right because morphology layer marker tile ran and didn't actually do any applying. So we have a problem. So we did this and we got no markers. So for some reason we're not loading the markers. And there's nothing else we do, right? Marker index. We don't use that for anything. The tile. So let's. What's the log file here? Shaper, haha. I need to fix that. Whoops. File. Shaper.log. Yeah, see. That looks right to me. That looks right to me. What I'm comparing is this number 43008 minus 32768. Those are the same. So we are pulling the correct tile, but for some reason we didn't find any markers, or we didn't intersect any markers. Let's check again. I cannot type. Come on, I'm getting in a hurry. That's why. Checking. All right, let's try again. Let's clean out the data. Run the tool. Gosh, 20 minutes over. As I was saying before, whenever this happens to me and I get off the live stream, it always turns out to be something dumb and I fix it within 5 minutes. And that's super annoying. Because I'm like, if I just done that one other thing. Okay, so we can actually grep the marker file thing here. Marker file shaper.log. Okay, so we are checking all of these things, but they're not intersecting. Oh, you guys. You know how when I was running Mapper before, oops. You know how when I was running Mapper before and I turned off all that other stuff? Well, the same thing that renders all of the towns and stuff is what writes these files out. So it blew away all of my farmland because it was not generated in the Mapper tool. And so what we'll do, yeah, try to be smart, end up being dumb instead. So settlements 3, we will check for food, and we will draw, no, false. We will make fake farms. I'm not gonna save this right now. We'll wait till this loads, and then we'll do it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'll show you another way too. So if we look at these, the markers file is only 27K because it's only got a few towns in it. When it's got all of the farms, the fake farms in it, it's going to be 8 megabytes. That is the issue. I mean, we had a bunch of other issues along the way, don't get me wrong. But I started checking things too soon. If that had occurred to me, I could have saved some time. But you get to see why I like to have the Mapper tool just running in the background and just edit the scripts, because it takes a long time to load all the data it needs to build. Usually enough time to go to the bathroom or something. Several 30-second processes, I think, which I'll have to get down when I include them in the engine. I do like to play games like Subnautica where, well, actually they changed this in Subnautica, but when you enter the world, it shows you the time elapsed that it's building loading the world data so that it can let you into the game. And I always liked that it took it like a minute and 15 seconds before it let me into Subnautica on PlayStation 4, because okay, there's my sort of metric for how long I can make players wait loading into Mythruna. The first time anyway. Obviously, I really try to keep the load times down for subsequent loads, but that first time you generate a world, there's going to be some calculation that has to be done. I'm trying to keep it under a minute. And of course, in the final version of the game, you'll be spending some time creating your character and stuff, and you'll be generating a lot of that stuff while you're working on your character. So some of it will be done while you wait. And I would like to, while you're doing that, maybe be presenting little bits of lore that you can learn about the game as you're creating your character, like, the desert town to the east is called blah blah blah, and so you get to learn a little bit about the world as it generates, and I figure it out, because I think it'd be cool to have those little pop-ups while you're generating your character. And maybe it helps you decide what kind of character you want to make to see some of that stuff come in. You go, oh, well, we're in a forested area, maybe I'll make her a ranger. All right, okay, so we've got this. None of the little farms generated anywhere. And so if we come over here and save this file, drink. And so it'll generate all those little guys. Oh, did it finish that quick? Suspicious. This one doesn't regenerate the... No, super suspicious. Oh my god, 15 minutes to load. Okay, I feel good for worrying about what I'm worrying about. Wow. Yeah, modded, of course, but still, that players are willing to sit through that to have that experience, as infuriating as it might be. And of course, Mythruna would only do this when you generate the world the first time. Subsequent runs would be fast. So hold on, check food. It's going through here. Add fake farms. It should be doing that. Let's log. Site. Okay, so we're adding a bunch of farms. For some reason we're not drawing them though. Yeah, that was a mistake, wasn't it? But yeah, no, that makes me feel a little better. I mean, I'm never going to make a player wait 15 minutes for the world to generate. I'd find another solution, but modders have a sort of limited capability to do anything, right? If they want to do something cool, they're limited by what the game supports. Jeez. Yeah, see, it's still not... I'm adding all these things. Let's just cover that up. Maybe it'll go faster. But why is it allowing me to... Oh, that log is already done. That's why. And it somehow still did not write the... Yeah, so it actually finished processing already and didn't actually add those towns. Oh, I know why. This return right here. I forgot. When I'm editing up here, it's not going to automatically reload the towns. I have to go over here and resave this to get it to... So now it'll add out all those things. When I'm working by myself, I can keep a lot more stuff in my head. Yeah, so there's all the farms. And so if we go over here slowly while it's generating all those thousands, millions of logs. This is the area where we were going to be in up here. Now we have lots of farmlands. Okay, so if we go and look, before I close the app, we go and look here, you can see 123markers.json turned out to be 8 meg. And so we should be able to... Well, I'm going to read your thing in a second. I got to find the copies. There we go. Copy 123. Yeah, all. Okay. Anything over like 3 minutes is too much on subsequent loads. Yeah, I can understand 5 or 6 initial order. Okay. I created the PC, crashed the PC early and just rage quit for the night. Wow. Yeah, that is kind of crazy. I agree. No, but I mean, like you saw earlier when I load Mythruna again, like the world already generated, and this is my goal, right? The world's already generated. You ought to be able to come in here, continue your last game, select a player, or this doesn't take too long. It takes longer than I want it to, put it that way. So you select your character or make a new character and you hit play and blah, it goes right in, right? This should be subsequent loads. This should be all you have to wait for. That initial 10 seconds or whatever you had to wait plus this. And you're in and playing. Oh, I left all those logs in and I hadn't generated the far terrain. So anyway, so let's exit out because that's not what we're trying to test. But anyway, you saw how fast I got into the game, and I could have been running around fighting monsters and whatever, if there were monsters to fight. Okay, so block it, Gradle, run, block it. Okay. Who thinks it's going to work? Are we taking over, under? What are the odds? I think it's got the best chance it's had yet. For whatever that means. All right, so we should see a ton of the logging over here. So, oh, I didn't clear the world data. What I was going to say before is when I'm working by myself, there's a good deal of my brain that can keep track of all these other steps I have to do. And that part of my brain is taken up by talking in the live stream. I found, like, I just cannot keep track of all the different ancillary steps I have to perform. Yeah, okay, so look at that. We're checking. We've got tons of stuff. And in fact, that is going to take longer than we have. I'm going to take those logs out now that we know that it's working. Yeah, we don't want to check we don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. Okay, everything's working now. I'm pretty confident. Because it was checking all the things. And we will all wait together. And we will all go down to demonetization. No, I'm not monetized, so. Okay. I do find that funny that YouTube will demonetize videos for people just singing like 5 seconds of a song. Little Billy Joel there. True story. I saw him in concert back in the 90s. Yes, I'm old. That was the Stormfront tour, the We Didn't Start the Fire stuff. Okay, so actually that's what a normal... Anyway, alright, so we've got farmland. Did it generate it up the hill? Yeah, it did generate it up the hill. So this is where we were standing in that... when I took that screenshot. And sure, it loaded. So now I can test. So this is kind of cool because, again, I can work on my farm algorithm and, make it so that it's only putting crops and things where it's supposed to be. Right now, crops are put in just like any other structure when that's really not what's going to happen. Eventually, they'll be plants. So they'll be managed probably by the same thing that manages the trees and other foliage. And so they would set ground types and blah, 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 blah. There's going to be some other stuff to do that and, counters to make sure that the things grow over time and so on and so forth. But what this allows me to do is not only this, but let's say this was water here and I knew I was supposed to generate a port here. I can work on town algorithms that decide, oh yeah, I can build a building here and I have to build a road down here and a dock here and ports here for the ships because the water's deep. I can do all that stuff. That's kind of a cool cross section of the world. It's funny. So this is going to save me a tremendous amount of time because the other thing is when I break out the script, like before I was talking about right now, I'm just calling world manager to create the world. But if I break out the create world stuff from world manager into code here, I can then inject my own functions for generating things like farms and stuff, and I won't have to recompile and reload this. I can just keep executing the script over and over again. Potentially not even store the data so that I don't have to clear the database out anymore. But anyway, I'm happy it's working. This is going to save so much time because I don't have to run the game and wait for the world to generate. All right. I think that's where I'm going to end it. We're 34 minutes over, which means we'll be probably 35 minutes when I stop. I'm really happy with this. Thanks guys for hanging out for the extra half hour. I hope it was at least remotely entertaining. I don't know. I appreciate having company though. It's a lonely job being an indie developer sometimes, and these live streams really help me feel like connected to people. Yes, absolutely. Well, that's already what I was doing before. So we had the, but yes, with respect to dungeon generation that needs to interact with the terrain, absolutely. But that's the same. This is the same place where I was doing the dungeon stuff before. Oh, that's kind of cool. And that's not what I meant to do. Execute. So like when I was doing this stuff before, that's precisely the kind of scripts and things. But yeah, for the stuff that needs to interact with terrain, absolutely. Like when you're generating that cliffside monastery or whatever, it'll know that it'll know what to what the world will look like at that particular location. So yeah, absolutely. This blockhead tool has been tremendously useful for all kinds of prototyping, and this is where the building generation stuff goes. And look how fast that came up. That's nice. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. And let's see, where's my thing? So thanks again for hanging out. Once again, thanks to the patrons. You guys are awesome. And yeah, we picked up 2 more this month. That's really cool. If you think about it, see if you can get some other people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think I'm 816 subscribers or something. It would be really cool if I could get to 1,000 by my birthday in July. That would be nice. So thanks everybody. Definitely, like, comment, subscribe, and stuff. Any engagement you can provide for the videos is super helpful. If you hung out this long, chances are you're a friend of the game. And yeah, cheers. And I will see you next time. Thanks.